You don't keep repeating the same mistake because you're weak. You keep repeating it because a part of you is doing it on purpose, a part of your own personality that you exiled years ago, and that has been quietly running your life from the dark ever since. Carl Jung mapped exactly how it operates, including the 4-step trap it uses to make you betray yourself within minutes of swearing you won't. Jung was Sigmund Freud's chosen successor before he discovered this. The fight between them was so violent it broke modern psychology in half. The reason it terrified Freud is the same reason most therapy still avoids it today. Once you see this part of yourself face to face, you cannot go back to pretending it isn't running the show. You are inside that loop right now. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which part of yourself is in charge of the mistake you keep making. And I will give you the single question Jung's patients used to drag that part into the light. One sentence. It ended patterns that had survived 20 years of willpower. Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist, born 1875, died 1961. For 10 years, he was Sigmund Freud's closest collaborator, his hand-picked successor, the rising star of European psychology. Then the two men had one fight that would split modern psychology in half. Freud believed the unconscious mind was a basement, mostly stuffed with repressed sex and forgotten aggression. Jung believed it was something far stranger, far more powerful, and in some ways, far more dangerous than Freud was prepared to admit on paper. Jung had noticed something in his patients that nobody was quite explaining. Every person who walked into his Zurich office, no matter how composed, no matter how kind, no matter how successful they appeared in their public life, carried inside them a second personality, a hidden self, someone they would never admit existed, even to themselves. The shy librarian who secretly seethed with rage at every customer. The pious priest tortured by appetites he could not name out loud. The peacemaker who, in his private moments, wanted to burn the entire world down to its foundations. Jung called this hidden self the shadow. But the shadow was not a quirk. It was not a small flaw to be polished out by a clever therapist. Jung was about to discover something none of his colleagues were truly prepared for. The early 20th century. Europe is changing at terrifying speed. Empires are crumbling, sciences are being born almost weekly, and psychology is finally being treated as a real discipline rather than a parlor curiosity. Jung is in his lakeside office in Zurich, treating wealthy patients from all across the continent. They arrive with the same complaint, dressed in slightly different clothes. They keep doing the exact things they swore, sometimes only the day before, they would never do again. The lawyer who keeps cheating on a wife he genuinely loves. The mother who keeps screaming at the only child she would die for. The artist who burns every single relationship the second it gets close enough to actually matter. Jung notices the pattern that nobody else is naming out loud. None of these people are confused about right and wrong. They know exactly what they should do. They make the resolution. They feel it in their bones, in their tears, in their late-night prayers. And then, like clockwork, they betray themselves. Again, and again, and again. And the more they hate themselves for it, the worse the betrayals quietly become. But Jung sees what no one else has seen. The betrayal is not random. There is a hand on the rope. There is someone inside the patient pulling the strings. And Jung is about to figure out exactly who. The discovery comes through dreams and through slips of the tongue. Jung learns, slowly, to listen not for the things his patients carefully say to him, but for the things they do not mean to say. The aggressive joke from the gentleman, the sexual dream from the prude, the cruel impulse that suddenly flashes across the face of the woman who has spent her entire life being kind to everyone. Jung realizes these are not aberrations. These are not mistakes. These are the shadow speaking. And the shadow is not a metaphor. The shadow is everything you have ever rejected about yourself. Every part of your personality that, at some point in childhood, you decided was too dangerous, too shameful, too ugly, too inconvenient to be allowed to be you. So, you exiled it. You locked it in the basement of your mind. You told yourself it did not exist. You may have even forgotten you locked it away. But it did exist. It still does. And the more carefully you deny it, the larger and louder it grows in the dark. Now, think for 1 second about the last person you genuinely could not stand. The one whose face flashed through your mind just now. There is a reason they got under your skin so quickly and so completely. Jung called it projection. We cannot see our own shadow directly. It is behind us, by definition. So we see it everywhere else, in every other face. The greedy person we despise is the part of us that secretly wants to grab. The dishonest person who enrages us is the liar we refuse to admit we are capable of being. The needy ex we quietly mock is the abandoned child inside us we have refused to ever comfort. And here is the trap that Jung saw before anyone. The more we hate it in them, the more we feed it in ourselves. The hidden reason you keep repeating the same mistakes is not that you are weak. It is that you do not know you are making them. The shadow is. And until you turn around and meet it face to face, it owns you completely. This was Jung's most controversial idea, and for almost 2 decades it sat nearly unnoticed in dusty journals at the edge of mainstream psychology. The profession wanted clean, prescriptive, scientific work that fit on a checklist. Jung had handed them something that looked closer to alchemy than science. But quietly, in private practice rooms across Europe and then America, his ideas began to spread among the therapists who actually had to help real people. And patients who had been completely stuck for 10 or 15 years suddenly started to break free of patterns they had fought their whole adult lives. Not by trying harder, not by white-knuckling their willpower for 1 more week, by doing the exact opposite, by turning around and looking with steady eyes at the part of themselves they had spent decades running from. The angry man who finally admitted out loud that he liked his rage, that it made him feel powerful for the first time since childhood. The sad woman who finally admitted she preferred her sadness to the much greater terror of hoping again. The addict who finally admitted, after 20 years, that the drink was never his enemy, the drink was his messenger. And then something strange happened. The behavior stopped, not because they fought it harder than before, because they no longer needed it at all. This is now called shadow work. And it is the quiet engine behind nearly every serious therapy tradition that came after Jung: internal family systems, Gestalt therapy, modern depth psychology. The premise is the same in every one of them. The parts of you that you despise are not your enemies. They are your data. They are telling you, in the only language they have, exactly where you abandon yourself. The reason you keep repeating the same mistake is that the part of you making it is starving for the attention you have refused for years to give it. Give it the attention. The mistake stops being necessary. Refuse. The cycle continues for the rest of your life, without exception. So, the question is not whether you have a shadow. You do. Everyone alive does. The only real question is whether you will spend the rest of your life being quietly ruled by it from the dark, or whether you will finally turn around and meet the stranger who has been wearing your face this entire time. If something in this hits somewhere uncomfortable, that is the shadow speaking. The next video goes deeper. Jung mapped 4 specific patterns that reveal which exact part of your shadow is currently in charge of your life, and how to spot it operating in your own behavior within the next 48 hours. That video is next.